Sussex Insider has claimed that Meghan Markle is currently plotting a big return to the United Kingdom for the first time since 2022. What do we know about this and Meghan Markle's plans to finally go back to the UK?
Yeah, I was really excited to read about this because
Duchess of Sussex hasn't set foot on British soil in nearly 3 years, but explosive new reports suggest she's plotting a massive comeback that could either save or completely destroy what's left of her reputation. What we've uncovered about Meghan's current social standing will shock you, and the leaked details about her allegedly crumbling friendships paint a picture that's far more devastating than anyone imagined.
In recent weeks, we've been talking about the Sussexes possibly having a bit of a peace summit, a reconciliation with the royal family, and I was kind of, mystified a bit. I thought, well, hang on, what's Meghan's role in this? Where's she sitting? And a reporter who spoke to the Daily.
Behind the polished Instagram posts and carefully crafted public appearances, sources close to Meghan's inner circle reveal a woman desperately clinging to relevance while watching her Hollywood dreams slip through her fingers. The same A-list connections that once elevated her status are now reportedly keeping their distance, and the reasons why might be more damaging than any royal family feud. Let's start with what's really happening in Meghan's professional world, because the cracks are showing everywhere. Industry insiders who once championed the former actress are now singing a very different tune, and it's not pretty. Multiple sources within Hollywood's elite circles describe a pattern that's become impossible to ignore, project after project falling through, collaborations ending abruptly, and former allies suddenly becoming unavailable.
Is giving it her blessing. She does want to move forward with this reconciliation because she has big plans, and these big plans all sort of surround the 2027 Invictus Games, which will be in Birmingham. So a big return. This is Harry's signature charity, his signature event.
The Netflix situation alone tells a story that Meghan's PR team desperately wants to keep quiet. While official statements maintain that negotiations are ongoing, the reality behind closed doors is far more complicated. Several high-profile projects have been quietly shelved, and the streaming giant's enthusiasm has reportedly cooled significantly since the initial fanfare of their partnership. What makes this even more telling is how other celebrities in similar positions have managed to maintain their Hollywood standing. Contrast becomes stark when you look at how authentic relationships versus transactional ones play out in the long term. Industry veterans point to a fundamental shift in how Meghan is perceived, no longer as the refreshing outsider bringing royal glamour to Tinseltown, but as someone whose presence comes with too much baggage and unpredictable drama. Now here's where things get really interesting and potentially explosive. The relationship between Meghan and tennis legend Serena Williams has been held up as proof that the Duchess still maintains powerful friendships, but recent events suggest even this bond might be more fragile than anyone realized. What happened at that exclusive Lake Como trip has become the subject of intense speculation, and the details that have emerged paint a troubling picture. Multiple witnesses describe a very different dynamic than what the public sees in carefully staged photo opportunities. The body language, the timing of social media posts, and most tellingly, who gets invited to what events, it all adds up to a friendship that might be more about public optics than genuine connection. When someone like Serena Williams, who has stood by friends through massive controversies, starts creating distance, it sends shockwaves through elite social circles. The most damaging aspect isn't just the potential loss of this friendship, but what it represents. Serena has always been incredibly loyal, famously defending those close to her even when it wasn't popular. If even she is pulling back, it raises serious questions about what's happening behind the scenes that the public isn't seeing. Tennis champions' recent social media activity and public appearances have been notably devoid of any Meghan mentions, a stark contrast to their previously showcased sisterhood. Here's the part that probably stings the most for Meghan: watching someone else achieve everything she desperately wanted, and doing it with grace and authenticity. Emma Titchwayanen, now the Marchioness of Bath, became Britain's first black Marchioness in 2020, and she's done it without a single scandal, controversy, or victim narrative. The contrast couldn't be more striking, and it's not lost on anyone paying attention. Emma's approach to aristocratic life has been everything Meghan's wasn't: subtle, respectful of tradition while still bringing her own identity, and most importantly, drama-free. She's navigated the same social circles that Meghan found so challenging, but with a completely different outcome. Where Meghan saw obstacles and oppression, Emma found opportunity and acceptance. The difference in how they've been received by British high society is stark and telling. What makes this comparison even more significant is that Emma has achieved this integration while being proud of her Nigerian heritage, proving that the issue was never about race or background. It was about approach, attitude, and authenticity. Emma's success story essentially demolishes many of the narratives that Meghan has built her post-royal identity around, and that's got to be incredibly frustrating for someone who positioned herself as a groundbreaking figure.
And, 2027 sounds like quite a while away, but really it's not.
No.
I mean, if you think about it, the last time Meghan was in the UK was 2022. So that was, nearly 3 years ago. So I think that she's kind of smoothing the way a bit with the royal family because she knows that in 2020...
The timing of Emma's rising profile coinciding with Meghan's social struggles isn't lost on observers. While one woman gracefully ascends through British aristocracy, the other watches from across the Atlantic as doors that were once open begin to close. It's a real-life case study in how different approaches to the same challenges can yield dramatically different results.
She's got her friend, Uncle Daniel's there, and then there's the Argentinian woman, and then there's a chef she brings in, and Mindy Kaling. So there are no questions or comments about them. Except there's one...
Behind all the carefully worded statements and diplomatic language about evolving partnerships, the Netflix situation represents something much more serious than a simple contract renegotiation. Industry sources paint a picture of mounting frustration, unmet expectations, and creative differences that go far deeper than anyone wants to admit publicly. The streaming giant's initial investment was based on the promise of unprecedented access to royal insider stories, but what they've gotten instead has been far less compelling than anticipated.
In something other than themselves.
Ka-ching! Whoa, Brittany! Meghan Markle has just been totally exposed by Megyn Kelly. Isn't that astonishing?
The viewing figures tell a story that no amount of positive spin can hide. Through the initial curiosity about Harry and Meghan's docuseries wore off, subsequent projects have failed to capture the same level of audience engagement. Netflix executives, who were initially thrilled about the royal connection, are now reportedly questioning whether the ongoing drama and controversy surrounding the couple is worth the continued investment.
Know any of the people she's talking with. She's trying to make sure everything looks super perfect, and she just doesn't come across well in any of the interactions at all, really, that she doesn't really know them. And one time she sort of gave somebody like a backhanded compliment, I thought.
What's particularly damaging is how this Netflix situation affects Meghan's broader brand strategy. The lifestyle content, the empowerment messaging, the carefully curated image of success, all of it depends on having major platforms willing to invest in her vision. When a company like Netflix, which initially rolled out the red carpet, starts expressing reservations, it sends a signal to the entire industry about her marketability and reliability as a business partner. The financial implications extend far beyond just the Netflix deal. This kind of high-profile setback creates a ripple effect throughout Hollywood, making other potential partners more cautious about entering into agreements. It's the kind of reputational damage that can take years to overcome, if it can be overcome at all.
Get the royals that gave her that title.
Did you notice that at the end of every episode, it says, like, the starring, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex?
Yes.
That's how she's billed.
Yes.
Now here's where Meghan's alleged master plan comes into focus, and it's either brilliant or desperate depending on how you look at it. The 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham represent what might be her last real opportunity to rehabilitate her image in the UK and reconnect with the royal family on neutral ground. But the execution of this plan reveals just how limited her options have become. The fact that she's apparently planning her return around Harry's signature charity event shows how dependent she's become on his connections and achievements for her own relevance. This isn't the independent, empowered woman narrative she's been pushing. It's someone who recognizes that her individual brand might not be strong enough to open doors anymore. The Invictus Games provide cover, a legitimate reason to return that doesn't look like she's crawling back.
Yeah, Meghan does, to a certain extent, thrive on confusion. But I think this confusion isn't helping her because everybody's like, well, what do we call you? You're still calling yourself the Duchess of Sussex, but then you're also calling yourself Meghan.
Royal experts are already speculating about the dynamics this return would create, especially given the 3-year gap since her last UK visit. The security concerns, the media attention, the potential for awkward family encounters, all of it makes this 2027 appearance a massive risk. But it might also be her only realistic path back to relevance in British public life. What makes this strategy particularly interesting is the timing. By 2027, Harry and Meghan's children will be older, potentially making family reconciliation arguments more compelling. It's also enough time for some of the current controversies to fade from immediate memory while still being recent enough for people to care about their return. Calculation appears to be that the Invictus Games provide the perfect vehicle for a softer re-entry into royal-adjacent activities. Strip away the PR statements and carefully managed public appearances, and what emerges is a picture of increasing isolation that even Meghan's most dedicated supporters are finding hard to ignore. The guest lists at high-profile events, the social media interactions that don't happen, the collaborations that never materialize, all of it points to someone whose social currency has significantly diminished. Former palace insiders describe a pattern they've seen before with other royals who've fallen from favor: the gradual disappearance from invitation lists, the polite but distant interactions, the way conversations change when certain names are mentioned. What's different about Meghan's situation is how quickly this transformation has happened and how public it's become. The most telling indicator might be the silence from people who were once vocal supporters. When celebrities and public figures who previously defended Meghan stop mentioning her entirely, it suggests a calculation that association is no longer beneficial. This isn't active hostility, it's something potentially worse from a career perspective: indifference. This social isolation creates a vicious cycle where each lost connection makes the next one more likely to distance themselves. In celebrity culture, perception of declining relevance becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once the momentum shifts, reversing it requires either a major triumph or a completely different strategy. The human cost of this isolation shouldn't be overlooked either. Whatever you think of Meghan's choices and behavior, watching a carefully constructed social network dissolve has to be emotionally devastating. Contrast between her peak royal moment and her current situation represents one of the more dramatic reversals of fortune in recent celebrity history. Looking ahead, Meghan faces a crossroads that will likely define the rest of her public life. The 2027 UK return could be the beginning of a successful rehabilitation, or it could be the final confirmation that her chapter in British public life is permanently closed. Everything depends on execution, timing, and whether she's learned from the mistakes that led to her current situation. The most realistic scenario might be a gradual retreat from the spotlight, focusing on smaller-scale projects and more carefully chosen public appearances. This would mean accepting a significantly reduced profile compared to her royal peak, but it might be the only sustainable path forward. The alternative, continuing to chase the megadeals and A-list connections, seems increasingly unlikely to succeed given the current trajectory. For Harry, these dynamics create their own complications. His individual projects and charity work remain respected, but his association with Meghan's declining social stock creates ongoing challenges for his own rehabilitation. Couple that was supposed to conquer Hollywood and transform royal engagement with social causes instead finds itself fighting for relevance and respectability. What we're witnessing isn't just one person's career challenges, it's a masterclass in how quickly things can change when authenticity gets lost in the pursuit of fame and influence. The reversal has been so swift and comprehensive that it will likely become a cautionary tale studied for years to come.